Welcome to the SaaS Marketing Rescue Workshop. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. Of course, we are Austin Lawrence Group, and we're hosting this SaaS Marketing Rescue Workshop, reviewing messaging or advertising and helping people to be more efficient in their messaging as they put it out. So joining me today from Austin Lawrence Group, we have Ken Lempent, our president. Ken, want to
Everyone.
introduce yourself?
Hey, everyone. Excited to be here. And we have a great set of ads and website heroes to review. Looking forward to getting into it.
Great. And we also have James Alleranshaw.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, independent marketing consultant. I've worked in technology marketing for 25 years, AI area for around 10 years, and somewhere in between that number with ALG. So we've worked together a long, long time.
Great. And we've had a number of submissions as we come up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bring up the different companies that have submitted things to us, and we'll talk a little bit about it. If the attendees are on the call, I'll ask them to come on and give us a little bit of background. If not, we will wrap this up and send it to them later in the post. So anyway, let's get started. So the first one we had was this company Gmind Tech. So it doesn't look like they're on the call. So let's just start with initially, Ken, what do you see in this messaging specifically?
Well, sure. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Gmind folk for their submission. It takes a fair amount of bravery to put yourself in the public square this way. So, a few things here. First of all, there's a lot of words on this homepage, and it's tough to get to what Gmind actually does. I think this notion of bespoke software doesn't necessarily resonate with the US reader. I'm certain plenty of us understand it, but probably a much larger percentage are not familiar with nor use the word bespoke. But how
Usually
about
the only
just
one
saying,
buying a suit.
yeah, yeah, if you're on Seville Row, right?
We all understand it in the UK because we're all going to Savile Row for our
Right.
tours.
Well, you all speak English too. But how about something just dead ahead, like building software for fintech startups and scale ups, or engineering teams to accelerate growth? It just seems like they're making it hard for us to understand what they do. And I wouldn't be surprised if that contributes to significant bounce rate on this homepage. I do like the solutions by industry down below. I can choose my adventure pretty quickly, which I think is still a good way to organize website content when you have a lot of vertical markets or different things you want to sell to different kinds of users. I think the space they're in, being an outsourced software development shop, pretty competitive. So you really need to work hard to stand out. And I'm just not sure we get it quite done here. Anybody else?
It's interesting to see the generalizations in the language. Obviously, they're trying to appeal to a broad range of industries, and that stops them getting to really clearly defining the problem. And I know that today we'll probably talk a lot about problem agreement in marketing messaging and being clear about what problem it is that you're solving for your customers. And you start to get hints of that in the language there. And they talk about bridging the gap between business needs and budget. So there is a gap, evidently, and it relates to needs and budget. And it would seem that for these guys, they're saying that off-the-shelf solutions aren't enough, and therefore some unique bespoke technology is required. So what are the specifics of that? What are some of these sort of problems that customers are encountering that can only be solved with custom software?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like you're going to hear us talk a lot about getting problem agreement in your main messaging. Because if we can attract people that agree that this is a problem worth solving, it's much easier from there to point out where the current processes or technologies in the market may be deficient, and then you can provide your reframe. And so when I'm looking at this messaging with that angle, I would say it's okay to use a major headline that is pretty dead ahead, like here's what we are and who we're for. But the next sentence better like address that pain point pretty quickly, or else you're going to lose a lot of buyers. And so looking at this, like unique software development approach and expertise for modernizing enterprise technology really doesn't say anything. It's still a pretty vague statement. I get that you're doing custom software development, but where's the problem, or where are your customers currently struggling to make progress? That's what you want to hone in on in the messaging. So what is it specifically about this gap? James brought up the bridging the gap between business needs and budget. So let's be a little more specific. What business needs? Like what typically gets in the way of companies being able to get to the desired future state that they're looking for, and where you're developing this differently? Any more to add
Yeah,
to this one?
yeah, just a thought level. So, where would one go as a marketer to find that information? Who's going to tell you what those gaps are and how do customers talk about it? And the obvious answer is the customer. So typically when we start a new consulting project with a customer of ours, one of the first things we want to do is talk to their customers and understand from the customer's perspective, how do they talk about the problems that their vendor or their supplier is solving for them. You can begin by talking to salespeople and BDRs internally. They're having conversations with customers, so they'll be able to hint at that and give you access to the customers. But being able to have those direct customer conversations and see what were the problems and what were the factors that triggered them to look for solutions, I think can be very revealing. I'd also add if it's possible to speak to people who were closed loss deals, people that you wanted to become customers and that didn't. Why didn't they? I think that also could be very revealing for how customers or how the market is thinking about the problems that your company is able to solve.
We can go on to the next one.
Okay, great. Are you on the call?
Yeah, I think you got him in the meeting. That's great.
Okay, so we got two different ones on here. I found this advertisement, and I also found, their main web page. So let's start with this advertisement. What's going on here? What do we think? And this is a LinkedIn ad, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like this is one of those situations where we have a pretty vague headline, and AI and anything else is already table stakes in a lot of SaaS and custom software today. It's kind of like saying cloud, but it became undifferentiated quicker than cloud. I think AI has had very rapid adoption, both in custom software, which is where Expeed primarily plays, as well as in SaaS products. And the benefit that the prospect would be able to deliver, this patient care, is buried, improved patient care is buried. So we're burying the lead, and we just sort of have a lot of stuff being thrown at people that doesn't necessarily address the problems in patient care, what they solve, and what are prospects seeking to fix today. That was my take on the ad.
Yeah, with the exception of the reduced diagnostic errors that they've got in there, I'm kind of wondering what's up with that. Like that there may be something there to play on, because if we can all agree again that I have diagnostic errors in my process. So if you're helping to solve some of those things, that should be more prevalent in the headlines and things that you're talking about. Again, problem agreement.
Yeah, and maybe, test one thing at a time. So if diagnostic errors is one of the things you think is going to drive people to engage, have one ad about that. Have one ad about, automating patient care through workflows. Get some information back from the engagement that your ads generate, to be very difficult in the analytics to know what it was that got people to click the free consultation. Should people click, we won't know why. But if we had ads that had one theme, we could have 3 or 4 creatives running against our 3 or 4 major problems.
And I just want to say too, like as a LinkedIn ad, your first job in a LinkedIn ad is to stop the scroll. And I just don't think this ad has anything that's going to stop somebody in their tracks.
I think there's a similar challenge going on to the previous example, is that there's a very general headline and that there's hints at some problems being solved in the subhead. And this can be a challenge, when you're trying to present a range of services and solutions that your company does, which ones to pick on. That's difficult sometimes to do on a homepage. And there's ways to do that by calling out a range of problems and allowing your audience to figure out, to take the leap that you have a range of capabilities. But I think in a LinkedIn ad where people are scrolling past it quickly, you have even less time to explain what it is that you do. So a general headline is really not going to work in this kind of instance. To say there's some things like reduced diagnostic errors which hint at problems being solved. I'd really like to see some more about that. What is the data? What errors and what's the error rate, and how are you impacting that? I think there's
And
potentially a
if
strong
you've got statistics, right, about how much you're able to reduce those errors, like we reduce errors 35% across enterprises, that would be something that would work great in a headline.
Especially also with those, if you can even be more specific, like the misdiagnosis of what kind, right? Are people being sent off healthy even though they're not? What is the nature of the error and what are the implications of the errors? Sort of the top problems that face what looks like hospitals or clinical settings that we're attempting to build software for.
Let's look at their website real quick and see if we've gotten any better clarification there, which unfortunately I don't think is much.
There's a couple of things I like here. First of all, I like this company name, which, it's really hard in today's world, in today's rapidly evolving landscape. It's very hard to get a meaningful company name. And I like the portmanteau of exceed and speed. I think that's kind of a neat company name. But I feel like, again, we have really generic messaging here. At least I know what category you're in, unlike a prior example where I wasn't really quite sure what business they were in at first glance. But I just think the copywriting is kind of lazy here, and it's not it's not setting this company apart. They probably have some amazing things they do that just don't come across. And 40 to 60% of your site visits begin and end here. And if you're not focusing a huge amount of attention on your homepage, you're going to miss a lot of people who might otherwise be prospects.
I want to be fair in making this comment in terms of linking the LinkedIn ad to this homepage. Probably the LinkedIn ad links to a landing page, and you then expect to see similar messaging in the landing page. Why? Because when somebody clicks on an ad, you want them to feel that they've ended up in the right place to begin with. And so this is the homepage. It's obviously going to be broader than that. But if you're running adverts with messages around your healthcare business, having that somewhere on your homepage that's reasonably visible, if you're out running ads actively at the time on that, it would make sense to have that somewhere on your homepage so people who remember your name and maybe pick up later, see that they are in the right place. And that doesn't happen here. So maybe Expeed has a very broad range of industries that it sells into and services that it provides, and that can be a challenge to represent all of that. But as it is, I'm not saying anything here about healthcare. So there's that mismatch between the advertising and the homepage experience.
Don't send people generically to your homepage from an advertisement. Like send them to a specific landing page that goes along with that advertisement. And we see that a lot. Like they'll send them to the homepage, and then they wonder why they can't track any leads, and it's because there's no kind of conversion metric in there. And then to James's point, if you're doing ABM to different industries and things like that, it would be great to have that landing page or whatever on the homepage where I can reference and see, okay, here's the work we're doing in healthcare. I'm interested in that. And then maybe that leads me to the same healthcare landing page or whatever.
One other thing here is that these guys have a variety of off-the-shelf solutions. They also have software as a service solutions, and they're lost here. It might almost make sense to have a separate organization, separate company, wholly different go-to-market motion, like tease these two things apart. We have a really great offshore outsourcing, US domiciled company, help you out in accelerating development. And then in a completely different, vein, vernacular livery to keep the bespoke thing going, a different look and feel, different company name, sell your SaaS products there. I know that the very largest ones like Infosys, domicile their software products in their mainline marketing, but this company is probably a little too small to be able to succeed at that.
So this company, Thrive, I actually like this ad and less on their homepage, which I'll show in a minute. But what I liked about this ad particularly is if you have just 40 minutes to spare, you can learn 20 new things to grow your business and increase sales. Good headline.
Yeah, it's a great opener.
People love growth hacks, right? I mean, that's very BuzzFeedy. You know, I almost feel compelled to click on it, even though I know it's not actually a live ad.
You know, I know this, well, the screenshot we're showing here is a video mid play. The size of the text with that promise up top means that it's a little hard to read. So maybe it's there at the beginning of the ad, but having that same promise at the beginning of the first sort of screen of the video, so you can have a larger headline version of that. It's a good way to go. Maybe Thrive's already doing that, but just I think it's worth pointing that out. But whilst I think it's very intriguing, this 40 minutes, 20 hacks is intriguing. I'm left with the question, well, what type of marketing? Marketing's a very big area. So is this relevant to me? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it a certain industry? So there's a lot of this type of content and this styling of offer out there. So whilst it is intriguing, there's a lot of competition for being intriguing. So I would think that it could still be even more relevant in explaining the type of marketing and the kind of the type of hacks that are going to benefit me. That means I'm not going to be relevant to others, but that's kind of the point.
I think getting a little deeper into these guys, James, you're absolutely right. You know, this is a sales and marketing platform for home services companies, wellness companies, and, you know, other consumer services like pet care, auto care.
Mhm.
So they could have 10 different versions of this ad running on LinkedIn for each of their top categories. And then the growth hacks could be for, you know, auto detailing companies or
Mhm.
for chiropractic companies. So they could do a lot more, same exact creative, just 10 or 12 variations for each of their top vertical markets. And that
I
would
think
probably,
that's right. And we talked about the content that you're able to see as you're scrolling, and whilst you can't take in a lot and you don't want to hide things in subheads, I'm always amazed when I kind of go through, scrolling through LinkedIn or looking at my email in the morning, there's marketing emails in there, the vast majority of which, I delete. It's amazing how quickly one can kind of hone in on something which is relevant to me. And so a well-targeted, relevant message, even when people are going at speed through that content, people can zero in on those and find those and pause for a moment. And so that's the reason that you want to have that specificity. And as Ken's suggesting, different versions of this for different audiences. Because if I see myself, I'm in an auto detailing shop and I see marketing hacks for auto detailing shops, then suddenly that's, many, many times more relevant.
Great. Well, let's look at their website. So, main heading here, industry leading marketing and sales platform. It says nothing. I'm sorry to be blunt, but you got nothing here. This isn't going to stop me. This doesn't build any intrigue. I would expect your next sentence to add some clarification, and I don't think it does that much as well. So words like supercharge, I mean, it's kind of over. Let's not use these vague words that are like supercharge or, accelerate or whatever. They're kind of wishy-washy terms. Business growth is very vague. So, of course, everyone wants to grow their business. Like, what are you talking about? What's the context here? And award-winning small business software and AI tools is, again, a kind of a vague statement. It doesn't tell me, like, okay, small business software to do what? Keep my books? What is it? What problem, again, are you solving?
and take a look just down below. Those statistics go right at the problems, right? Everybody buries the lead. I think we've even done it ourselves a few times. You know, increasing customer base, increasing the appointments booked. There's another promise on the website about appointment reminders, making sure people show up for appointments. One of the biggest problems, both in the wellness category and in home services. So there's probably a lot of stuff they do that's more important than vague representations of their
I mean,
company.
the instant change I would make is to swap these two bits of text around. There's some really great numbers there, and I think that those are the bits that are intriguing, because there's evidence and real outcomes. Appointments booked, being able to have sales conversations. That's so much of the time what we're trying to drive as marketers, for our salespeople, to have those opportunities. And so 61% increase in that's really meaningful, but it's kind of below the fold, as it were. It's going to take some scrolling if you're looking at this on a mobile website to be able to see that. The other bit I found was a little bit kind of confusing. There's a kind of a fun message around flushing money down the toilet on marketing and sales strategies that don't work. So great. There's another message in there which is around loss, and people hate losing. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that. I'm not sure about strategies in this context. I don't see platforms as driving strategies. They tend to be more enabling tactics. But I get this sort of sense that, things aren't working. This is a better solution. So there's so much in that lower bit of text with the statistics, which is more meaningful. And I'd really want to expand on that.
I think they get the close but no cigar award there, right? It's like they have a lot of the ideas, but maybe it's also a less is more recommendation here. And when you look at the stuff on the right, all that imagery on the right is just hard to take in. Might be better off with a screenshot of the product itself. That tends to test well. The guys at Spiralize do a lot of great content on LinkedIn around what a homepage might do better. And Jason, one of your recommendations that you often make, I think I count 3 get a demo buttons, right? I'm not giving people alternatives as to what they might want to do. If I don't want to talk to a salesperson, can I see a demo? Can I do something else? So give me a little more. I see we do have a video there. Maybe we want to have a video demo library by industry. Let's give people some more stuff to do besides.
I think that's a really great point, Ken, is that, we're all trying to drive at this increase in appointments. That's what this company does for its customers. And so getting people to take a demo, to talk to a BDR or a salesperson is the thing that we really want to happen. People don't want to talk to salespeople until they're ready. I used to work with Forrester Research, and going back, this is, over a decade, but really, back then we had very, very clear evidence building year on year that people don't want to talk to salespeople until they're in a late stage in their buying process. And they'll do their own research. And by the time they're ready to talk to somebody in sales, they probably whittled it down to a short list of 2 or 3. And I think that's, we feel that most of the time in our own experience. Picking up a salesperson is not our first act when we start investigating a product. So being able to see a demo rather than having to talk to somebody, or pointing people to relevant content, videos, playbooks, blog articles, webinars, whatever it might be, to help them educate themselves about the problems that you're solving for them and how your solution is exceptional in doing that. Make it easy for people to self-learn. And then when they come to speak to your salesperson, they're already informed, and your salesperson, you should be able to provide them with some data that the customers interacted with certain content. So they already have a sense of what they might be interested in. It can be a more effective sales conversation.
Yeah, I think that's all exactly right. And just to hammer it home, think about it. Like when you go to a website and you're looking to buy a piece of software, if you're a hand raiser, you've done your research, you're ready to go. I know where to find that go to demo button, get a demo button. It's always in the upper right-hand corner, which it is here. So just repeating it doesn't make me more compelled to take your demo. In fact, it makes me less compelled, and it's a wasted space here. So instead of this, like just keep it up there in the right-hand corner for the 1% of people that are ready for a demo when they come to your website. They know where to find it. But here, watch a demo, lead them to like a page where, they can watch demos on their leisure, and then that's going to help educate them more. And then again, to Ken's point, this graphic isn't adding value. A screenshot would be better. I would have said, put this video in the hero, but the statistics actually show that a screenshot performs better than a video there. So the video is fine where it is, but definitely swap this out or get rid of this completely and move this idea up to the hero would go a long way in converting more traffic.
Yeah, and you know what? Since they have a free version, I'm not sure if it's forever free and how limited it is, but the get started for free option should be highlighted on the homepage.
There you
Even
go.
if I don't, even if I don't take you up on it, that's saying to me you have a lot of confidence in the product and you're going to make it easy for me to try it out for myself.
Let's see what else we got. Conga. So we got a couple of ads from this company. We've also got their web page, but let's start with the ads. These are both LinkedIn ads, looks like. Now, just first of all, looking at these things. So one we're promoting a webinar. So that's a little bit different concept than the first one where we're promoting, a piece of content or, a report that we're putting out, which I like that idea. I like both of these ideas. Problem that I have with both of these is that I don't see a big scroll stoppage event when I look at these. They're very text heavy and don't really grab my attention. What do you think, Ken?
So I got a couple of problems here. One is, are the Salesforce admins, are they the people buying Conga? Are they the decision makers? How much influence do they really have? I mean, I can understand if you have them as users, you want to make sure they get onboarded and effective very quickly. But there's a fair amount of advertising in the library targeting the admins. And I just don't know if those are the people. They may be, but certainly seems, it's not my first gut instinct, I guess. And there are a lot of words. We repeat the title of the event down below. So we're wasting a lot of energy on the event promotion. Less is more, I think, on that piece of creative. And you're absolutely right. It's just sort of what's going to stop me. The ad on the left, I kind of like better. I like the Gartner Peer Insights social proof, sort of endorsement by Gartner. That's very powerful. In the findings, we had Six Senses head of thought leadership on the podcast just this week, just published today, actually. And industry analysts actually carry a lot of weight in the enterprise sales still. And so, calling out Gartner's name, really great idea. If I'm in the market for a configure price and quote solution, I know what CPQ means, and I'm probably going to at least go, yeah, maybe that's me. So I just think there's a reasonable amount of pulling power on this ad. I mean, it could be made a lot more effective with maybe a picture of a purse, because we have all the text down below. Again, these guys seem to reiterate in this ad on the left, there's 3 times they tell us it's the customer's choice plus the graphic award. They might be able to rely on something else to stop me in my scroll.
Yeah, you just say adding a picture to the ad on the left. Is that, Ken, because the data shows that having faces grabs
Yeah.
it more?
Yeah. I mean, ideally it would be a baby, but I'm not sure that's
Or a dog.
contextually relevant, or a dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're saying the same thing 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
We don't need to say it over and over and over again. Give me something else to lock in on.
The idea on the left is the stronger of the two, and I'm a former Forrester guy, so of course I'm going to agree that analyst companies have an influence, but I think that's also independently verified. The ad on the right, I think I agree with you guys that there's some repetition going on there, which creates clutter. And actually, there's 3 speakers here, David, Anna, and Brad, and I can't see what they do. And the text that tells me their job title is too hard to read, especially in a fast scroll. And so what's the value of a webinar? It's to speak to or hear from my peers or more seniors in my industry and to learn something. And so these 3 people are really what I want to know more about in relation to harnessing AI and automation. What kind of things are these people going to be able to tell me? Because they're the reason I'm coming. So I think, again, there's something really interesting there, but it ends up being hidden.
And the only thing I would add here, like in this left-hand ad in the market for a CPQ, if we're thinking in terms of problem agreement, I would rephrase that something like looking for a CPQ to do X. Like, what is that struggle that we're looking for? And then hit them with find out why Gartner ranked us as whatever choice. Then you still get your social proof, but it's secondary to the message of problem agreement. Like, we're in the market for a CPQ to solve X problem, right? Let's look at their website real quick. And so this one has a lot of issues. So first of all, from my perspective, we are the revenue company, again, says nothing. Also, a big pet peeve of mine is this big blocky text of a white on a black background. I always tell people that if you don't want people to read it, then put white text on a black background, with the exception being like large text headlines that you see in magazines and all that kind of stuff. If you've ever worked in magazines, you know you always have to fight the designers on this because they love to put white text on a black background, but it kills the readability. Also, we've got a graphic here that's not adding any value whatsoever. Better to see, again, a screenshot. You're making the mistake again of get a demo and then repeating it at the top right, and also giving them a contact sales. Like, what's the difference? Like, in other words, this is all about you and getting a lead into your system. It's not about like what problems that the customer potentially has. Only thing that I like about this web page is the social proof here with the icons.
Yeah, I just want to say, I feel like this website homepage is all about them. It's like literally, it's the only child of website homepages. And speaking as an only child, I mean, it's like, I do this, this is me. If you want to know more about me, this is where to find out about me. And there's very little opportunity for me as a site visitor to understand what are the two or three problems you solve that I might care about that are going to cause me to want to learn more. And I just feel like it's a lost op. Obviously, this is a pretty successful company, and I think this is a case of we're being successful in spite of our messaging, not because of it. There's a lack of contribution here of marketing and messaging to success.
Which means there's a big opportunity for this company to convert more traffic from their homepage. So I would recommend Conga redesign this website.
Yeah, I'd echo these views as well. It's the LinkedIn advertising is definitely more interesting than the homepage experience. So it was a little disappointing to kind of go from one to the other here. I think the only bit that kind of stands out and starts to feel interesting is those logos. There's 10,000 companies use us and some pretty big companies there. So that's kind of interesting. But the rest, as you say, Ken and Jason, it's about them, not about me and what problem I'm trying to solve. So they need to switch that around.
Great. I think this is the last one. Got this UVOD, or how, I'm not sure how they're pronouncing that, UVOD. Initial responses here, again, the design is a little chintzy here. It looks too basic. I would spend a little bit of resources on designing here, especially for the audience that you're selling to. You're selling a fairly sophisticated TV entertainment system to hotels. You need a website that reflects that as well. Typically, again, got the request a demo here right in the front. This pink background with the white text, a little bit hard to read. Again, it's pretty straightforward on the headline, IPTV solutions for hotels, but that doesn't really tell me much. It only tells me like who you're selling to, which is okay. But again, what's the current problem with the entertainment systems? As I was talking to James before the call, this is much like banking. Like, how irritable do you need to be with your bank to go change your bank to another one? You have to be in a lot of pain to do that. Same thing applies here. Like, all hotels are going to have TVs, entertainment systems already. So this is a rip and replace. And if you're not giving me a good reason to rip and replace or consider ripping and replacing, I'm going to brush right over this homepage.
I think when we were talking about this, Jason, I had a statistic from the UK. It's a bit of an old one, but it always made me laugh. Is that people have more marriages that have end their marriages more often than they end their bank account. It's loyalty in this space is just because people say it's painful to have to make that change, and so rip and replace solution like that, you've got to have some really compelling reasons to do that, or feeling some real big pain points, and those are just not communicated here. There are some hints again at problems. There's a suggestion that could be more engaged, and that can drive services, interaction, and revenue. So I imagine that in this company, they will know some of the things that hotels could be doing better with their IPTV systems and how that translates into revenue and guest engagement. And they say the hotels themselves will have opinions on that. Their customers will have opinions on that that could be shared here. So it's hinted at, but it's not. It's certainly not specific, and it's really very, very buried. So I think the same advice applies really across really all of these examples. Is go and talk to your customers. How do they talk about the problems that you're solving for them? It's actually in all the years of marketing, and I used to run at Forrester, a group for technology marketing leaders, a peer group where we get together and talk about how to solve marketing challenges. I just feel about like 70% of the time, the answer could be found in having a conversation with the customer and that sort of customer insight. It's so easy to kind of get stuck in our own perspective. And so any opportunity you get to take yourself out of that and talk to your market or those who have knowledge of your markets and present their insights and perspectives rather than your own, it's almost always a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, James, I just want to pick up on something you said a couple of moments ago. My notes on this website where it's sort of the land of lost opportunity. They have a category where the operators, the people who are going to make that decision to rip and replace these systems, they're struggling with low margins. And on the bottom right here, we have this promote service and drive revenue promise. And they're probably in a position to quantify the per screen revenue jump that they generate. I mean, I think they can put themselves very much front of mind just by talking about the revenue generation on the systems where they're handling the deal. So I just feel like this is a cool category. The design could be much better. Even the mid-range operators, those people are focused on the design of their facilities, their menus, their own web properties. We've just missed a lot of opportunity to compel the people that are making decisions about the infrastructure and marketing to guests to take us seriously. So a lot of chance here to do better. I certainly think the other thing that's missing here is there's no social proof anywhere. Who are the other companies using this? If I'm operating Hampton Inn, if I have 20 Hampton Inn properties, is anybody in my system using this? I think it'd be nice to know what hotel systems are using this product and benefiting from it.
Great. Anything else we want to say on this one? I think that's it. So, of course, promoting our free marketing and messaging review, it is more extensive than what we just did here, but along the same line. So just hit me up or click on that QR code there and it'll take you to the landing page. But basically, we're going to look at your messaging, whether that's advertising, content, or web development, and give you a couple of ideas to make some big impact quickly and give you a roadmap to find out what really works for your customers.
Hey, Jason, this slide is missing the social proof, but everybody who's ever done this has had a really good experience. We actually do have some great testimonials on our marketing and messaging review. And I encourage people here in the session, as well as those who'll take the replay, take us up on the offer. It's free with no obligation.
You are correct, but in my defense, I will say that the landing page does have the social proof quotes from others that have done it. And I thought it would be a little bit much to put all that on the slide.
Well, so less is more. Go to take a shot of that QR code and please visit our landing page and take us up on the offer for a free marketing and messaging review.
It's interesting that right now we're arguing about the quality of our own content. And so I think it's, thanks to all of these companies that have put themselves, on in the public square for criticism, it's not an easy thing to do. And there's no always single right answer. These things are debatable, but I think we've seen some consistent issues here that tell a story of how to improve. So I think taking up the opportunity to explore that is always a worthwhile thing.
Agreed.
Excellent. Well, that's all we have for today. We will do this again next month. Thanks a lot for attending and submitting. And if you'd like to attend and submit stuff for review in our next one, again, just click on either this code or write me directly at jm@austinlawrence.com and we will get you set up. Thanks a lot for participating.
Yeah, and thank you, James. Thank you, Jason, for your leadership.